So you finally decided that you want to compete, you want to get in there and you want to enjoy yourself in competition. But you're scared that you might lose. That's okay. We all lose. It's part of competing. With these tips, what I will be able to do for you is give you a reliable routine that I've used with thousands of students and the teammates in my gym and for myself that will reliably make sure that your mind and your body are in the best place possible to be able to win or just to be able to enjoy the day as much as possible, which will lead to more winning. We're going to talk about winning and losing at the end of the video, but I recommend you stay around to find out. First and foremost, when you're thinking about competing, try not to separate it too much from your training that you do every single day. This has multifactorial benefits, but the main one is that you're not going to be seeing it as this massive mountain to climb on the day, which will, for obvious reasons, give you a raise in nerves. Think about going to school every day, going into class. You're not nervous to go to class. You're learning Shakespeare in English and you're learning calculus in maths and other different subjects. But as soon as you get to a test, to test your knowledge, now that there's consequences on the line, all of a sudden you start to get nervous, you start to freak out, you start to question yourself, you start to doubt yourself and your knowledge. Although if you were perceiving each and every single class as a mini test that was building you towards the big test, in my opinion, you would be able to reduce the total amount of nerves and anxiety that you would be getting from the competition or from the test itself, because you're not seeing it as wildly different. I think that's the biggest thing that people do in terms of their perspective of what competing actually is. Yes, there's going to be a raised intensity. Yes, there's going to be a crowd. Yes, there's going to be people you don't know that you are competing against. Yes, there are going to be things that you might not have experienced in terms of techniques or noises or anything like that. But what you need to fundamentally recognize before you do anything in terms of tactics or skills or any of that jazz, you need to realize that it's far more similar than it is different. And in my experience and teaching a lot of people, that has lowered the level of nerves that they are experiencing on the day. Most people ask me, they're like, oh, what's your first tip for first-time competitors? Or what's your best tip for first-time competitors? Every single time it's go out and enjoy yourself, because it's a fun experience. It's going to be nerve-wracking, of course. There's a certain amount of nerves that you just can't get rid of. And I don't think, in my opinion, I think it's a bad thing to get rid of nerves altogether, because I see it as something that sharpens me, not something that hinders me. So I wouldn't want to get rid of my sharpness. I would actually want to facilitate it and use it. And so go out and enjoy yourself is usually a good mantra to tell people that are competing for the first time, because they realize it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about gaining the experience of competing. You don't even know if you like competing yet. You don't even know if you enjoy the process yet. You don't have to do it, but if you are thinking about doing it, I think that should be your first step. This should be your lead up to competition. Thinking about doing it, your coach says you're probably ready for it. Okay, I'm going to go out and enjoy myself. I'm going to go out and see it as similar to training as humanly possible, and then I'm going to go and do my thing. And if you think about your training as mini competitions, not in intensity, not in skills, not in the way that you actually do the sport, but if you think about it as a mini competition every single day, in your mind, you can reconcile that it is something that you've done 4, 3, 5 times a week for many, many weeks in advance. I think most people probably compete around the 6-month mark-ish. So you've had 6 months of 3 lessons of mini competitions that will all culminate into one event that is not way larger than you. It's not way larger than your training. If you see it like that, you'll be more calm, more relaxed, less jittery, and you're more likely to have better technique on the day and better skills on the day. Second biggest tip is going to be, don't change your normal routine of let's say the competition's on a Saturday afternoon and you train on a Saturday morning. Prepare the same way that you prepare for your Saturday morning training session as you would the Saturday afternoon competition. Don't change your food, don't change your caffeine, don't change the hydration that you drink. Drink all of the normal and eat all of the normal things that you do on a day. Again, in line with this perspective shift, that it is not too far different or too far removed from your regular training sessions. If you would not punch 5 white monsters before a training session, do not punch 5 white monsters before a competition. You are going to raise your anxiety level by the amount of caffeine that you are having in your body. You're going to explode your heart rate through the roof. Your efficiency is going to be in the floor, and you're not going to prepare or compete well, because, play a hypothetical example, right? Are you more likely to think nerve-wracking thoughts when your heart rate is extremely high, or you're more likely to think nerve-wracking thoughts when your heart rate is at a normal resting level? Of course, it's going to be the extremely high level. The more caffeine you have, the more your resting heart rate goes up. it's a situation for disaster. I used to do this in rugby league all the time. I would play hardstyle, pump up music, motivational talks. I would drink pre-workout. I'd have no-dose tablets. I would do everything. I'd throw the kitchen sink at myself. And for 2 hours before the game, I would be at a resting heart rate of around 90 to 100. I imagine. I didn't have a heart rate monitor at the time, but using Whoop and everything like that, I can closely match that. That's not good. I am burning mental energy, which actually, I forget where I read this, but it was doctors, I believe it was doctors in surgery burn up to 5,000 calories per day just from mental exercise. And world-class chess players burn up to 6,000 calories a day in their sport. So it's very calorie intensive. And if you're burning up your body's energy in terms of ATP and PC and all these things, all the building blocks for all the energy, you're not going to have anything left for competition. So you're going to be riding the wave of the dragon, going all the way up through anxiety, crashing down before you even get a chance to get a hold of somebody. Then, because you're terrified, you're going to death grip someone and eliminate all of the rest of your energy. You'll feel unbelievably exhausted, and nobody's competing at their best when they're unbelievably exhausted mentally and physically. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is bring a competition pack of stuff that is going to facilitate you throughout the day. So bring a hoodie. You are going to get cold in between matches because the sweat will start to dry out, or the sweat will start to accumulate on your body, and there's going to be fans and everything else, and you're going to start to get cold. Your body needs to be able to stay at a decent temperature so you don't get stiff. So bringing a hoodie is an absolute game changer of a tip. Bring some very simple carbohydrates. So whether that be lollies or whether that be fruit or something of that variety, because if you're competing all day, usually you do 2 divisions, maybe you even do 4 divisions, gi, no gi, weight class, and absolute division. You're going to need a little bit of a pick-me-up, not more than normal of what you would normally need throughout a day of hard work, but maybe a Gatorade or 2, definitely some water. I recommend a hydration drink of some degree. I like to have lollies on hand or some fruit on hand, so it's light, it doesn't sit in your stomach, it's not going to weigh you down. Your body's not using resources to digest the food that you've just eaten that could be utilized to compete better. If you are somebody who is in line with potentially sleeping throughout the day to reset yourself, I'd bring a pillow. Obviously, basketball courts are not the most comfortable things on earth, so if you can bring a pillow, set your head down for a nap, 15, 20 minutes, no longer, because then you'll get into a drowsy state, and you run the risk of what happened to Kit Dale at one of his competitions where he had a nap, and they woke him up to compete. Whenever you wake up fresh in the morning, all your body's stiff and gross, and there's no way you can produce decent amounts of force or endurance. And so if you get woken up for your match, or you miss your match completely because you've been napping, in my opinion, that's a bad idea, because your forearms will start to explode just like his did. I remember listening to this story many, many years ago, and that's generally a bad idea. I also recommend that you bring any mobility tools that you use on a day-to-day basis in the gym, just so that you've got them there ready and available, so that you can take that out of your mind as one of the preparation routines that you usually use. So the 4th point is going to be warm your body up rigorously. So if you're thinking about conserving your energy, you're actually thinking about it the wrong way. You want to jack your heart rate up quite high right before a match, 15 to 20 minute window, so you can recover and come back down, and so that your heart will have pumped enough blood throughout your body and gotten a test essentially of the competing of what you're going to be putting yourself into. And so it's a nice way to not have the adrenaline dump and the crash and everything associated with competing. In a match, you'll actually blow out a little bit before the match, so you already get rid of all the nervous energy, you get rid of all the jitters, you get rid of all the tension and the stickiness, and you'll go into the competition a lot more fresh and a lot more prepared than you otherwise would if you didn't do that. I've done both of these. I've done 0 warm-up and I competed horribly, and I've done rigorous warm-ups and I've competed much better. And so I recommend competing underneath at least a 15 or 20 minute period of 2 or 3 successive matches, match-paced rounds where you're hand-fighting and you're drilling and you're doing all those things, jacking your heart rate up nice and high, getting a sweat out, and then going into the match 15 to 20 minutes after, ready and prepared. There's also a secondary benefit to this, is that if you're going against somebody who you perceive is very slippery, very disengaging, very avoidant, which if it's your first time, they probably will be, the sweat drying on your skin actually creates a form of film that will make you stickier to your opponent. If you go into a match sweating your balls off, obviously there's a slipperiness element to that, and it's going to make your job a lot harder. But if you've come down from a sweat, you'll have this sticky element to your feeling without cheating and without using sprays and tacky and whatever else, which you shouldn't be doing. Tip number 5 would be try and get your heart rate as low as humanly possible between matches. It's very likely you're going to have a handful of matches. It could be a round robin tournament. It could be a sudden death tournament, but most likely you're going to be having at least 1 or 2 or 3 matches on the day. As soon as you finish your match, it's not your job to ride the high of winning or ride the low of losing. It's your job to get your heart rate centered right in the back into where it should be if you were in an ordinary calm state, sitting down, doing what you usually do at work, playing with the kids, talking to the maybe not talking to the missus because that's obviously stressful, going through all the drama and everything else. But it's your job to zone out on everything, maybe take some information from your coach if they've got some competing tips for you, if the tactical tips of what you did incorrectly or what you can improve upon in the next match. But the most important thing between matches is get your heart rate right down. Throw the hoodie on, keep warm, but get your heart rate right down so you're prepared to go into the next match as you were the first match. Most people don't manage the day very well. This is something I did poorly at ADCC in the second day. I didn't focus on getting my heart rate climbing right back down to a good level before the bronze medal match. And I went out disjointed, discombobulated, not my usual self where I was focused and pinpointed. And obviously I ended up getting finished pretty quickly. So that goes to show that the match was lost before it even happened because of the way that I prepared for that specific match. Conversely, what I did really well against Mike Perez, I immediately came back to the change room, got my mindset on the next match, got my heart rate down into a good position, thought about the tactics and the techniques I would be using in 30, 40, 50 minutes time, went out into that match and had a stellar performance. So there's the highs and the lows, and if you don't manage your energy during the day, you're going to experience some bad lows, obviously, in your competing. 6th and final tip, do not worry about winning or losing. At the end of the day, it is merely an experience. And I think that it takes the pressure off you. Obviously, we all love winning. We all hate losing. We're all very competitive. That's why we want to compete. But I think, in my opinion, I've had a better time competing and I've been more flowy in my roles and I've been more technically superior in my execution on the day when I've dealt with, I might lose this match, I might win this match. The only thing that I should be focusing on is my skill set and the things that I've been building in my skill set and executing that to the highest degree possible. I can't control what the other person is going to do. I can't control what the referee is going to do. I can't control how they're going to respond to my techniques and so on and so forth. So what I can control is what I do on the day, how I prepare, the way that I see the matches and the way that I perform inside those matches as it regards my own physical capabilities and my own mental capabilities. Winning and losing is not something to be concerned with because if you win and you didn't try your hardest, in my opinion, that's not what you want. And if you try your hardest and you lose, I'm okay with that. If you try your hardest and you lose, you've got nothing left in the tank, good on you. That's exactly what you should be doing. So you can see there with a simple switch, it's not actually about winning or losing. It's about doing the best that you possibly can and then working to build that into a routine so that you can reliably produce that performance every single time. And again, winning is great, losing sucks, but my best performances have come off the back of losses because I've doubled down in my training, I've doubled down in my focus, really started to put some pieces together of the things that I needed to do better. And then sometimes on winning, you just coast, you think, oh, I'm a winner now, I'm a fucking champion, there's nothing I can do better. And it actually ruins your training for a little bit. So dispel the idea that winning is the best thing ever and losing is the worst thing ever. It's all about building skills, experience, having a good time, and making sure that you do your best on the day. And that includes all the routine that we just went through. So if you could do those 5 or 6 things throughout the competition day, you're going to have a much better time than your opponents who don't do those things. They rock up, they smash the caffeine, they do all the things that you shouldn't be doing. They get into the match, they freak out, and then they end up losing, having a shit time, and maybe never ever competing again. Like my hope for you guys is that you compete, you love the experience, win, lose or draw, you get in there, you have a good time, you have fun, and then you go, fuck yeah, when's the next one? Let's go do the next one. Because there's nothing quite like the lightning in your veins when you compete and you do your best and you hit good techniques that you've been working on, you win, lose or draw. Obviously winning's great, but there's nothing quite like it. It makes you feel alive, makes you feel powerful, and I hope that everybody can feel some respective semblance of that at least once in their life.